A sudden gust of wind swept across the roadside cafe as the storm clouds thickened above, and in that trembling moment, everything seemed suspended in time: the scattered chairs, the smell of rain in the air, and the lonely table where a tired single father sat with his young son. But nothing was as striking, or as unexpected, as the brave little voice that broke the silence when a one-legged girl, balancing carefully on her crutches, looked at him with hesitant eyes and asked, "Can I share this table?" For a heartbeat, the world held its breath, unaware that this simple question was about to change 3 lives forever. If you're watching this and you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of small miracles, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The man's name was Daniel Carter, a factory worker who carried the exhaustion of years on his shoulders. His son, Liam, only 8, sat quietly beside him, clutching a school notebook full of unfinished homework. Daniel hadn't planned on stopping at the cafe, but life had a way of forcing pauses on people who never took them. Today, after losing extra shifts at work and receiving a call from Liam's teacher about his slipping performance, Daniel felt completely defeated, unsure of how to hold everything together. He thought they would sit there alone, eat in silence, and pretend things were fine for a little while. But when that girl approached their table, limping slightly, her eyes full of humility and courage, something inside Daniel softened, almost painfully. Her name was Evelyn Grace, 14 years old, dressed in worn clothes but with the kind of gentle determination that made her look unbreakable despite her fragile appearance. She asked again, apologetically, if she could sit because all the other tables were full, though Daniel knew she simply didn't want to force herself into spaces where people might stare. He nodded slowly, gesturing for her to sit, and she carefully set her crutches aside before taking a seat with practiced effort. Daniel watched her secretly, noticing how she adjusted herself so no one would think she needed help, how she kept her chin lifted even when her hands trembled slightly, and how her single leg didn't diminish the strength she carried in her presence. As the rain began falling, soft at first, then steadily building, a quiet connection formed between the 3 of them. Evelyn kept glancing outside as if looking for someone, but no one came. Daniel realized she wasn't waiting, she was simply hoping. They sat like that for several minutes, 3 strangers sharing a table but separated by deeper struggles no one dared to mention. Eventually, Evelyn pulled a small paper bag from her backpack, revealing a single sandwich she had probably made at home. She divided it in 2, then hesitated before returning one half to the bag as if saving it for later. Daniel felt a twist in his heart. He knew that look too well, the look of someone who learned to stretch what little they had. Something inside him pushed him to offer her part of the meal he had bought for himself, but pride and caution held him back. Evelyn didn't look like someone who wanted pity. Instead, she looked like someone who had already lived 100 battles and wasn't ready to let any of them define her. Liam, curious and innocent, broke the silence with a small question about her crutches. Evelyn didn't flinch. She smiled, a soft, brave smile that hid the pain but celebrated survival, and explained she had lost her leg 2 years ago in an accident. No drama, no tears, just raw truth spoken with strength far beyond her age. As she explained her story, Daniel felt the world inside him shift. She told them how her mother had passed long before the accident, and her father had abandoned her afterward, unable to cope with her condition. She now lived with her elderly grandmother, who sold handmade crafts in the local market. Money was scarce, meals were simple, dreams were expensive, but her will to keep going was fierce. She talked about how she refused to quit school, how she wanted to become a writer one day, and how she sometimes came to this cafe after classes just to sit where she could feel like a normal teenager. Her voice didn't break until she mentioned her grandmother's weakening health, and Daniel saw the way she swallowed her fear like someone who had learned not to burden others. Rain hammered the roof harder now, a rhythmic echo of the storms inside all of them. Daniel looked at Liam, who was quietly listening, wide-eyed, understanding more than children his age should. Daniel realized how much he had been failing his son emotionally while drowning in his own struggles. He had forgotten that children were bridges, they felt everything adults tried to hide. Watching Evelyn speak so courageously made him see that strength wasn't about holding everything in, it was about continuing despite scars, losses, and heartbreak. Minutes turned into a shared warmth neither expected. Evelyn taught Liam a clever trick for solving a math problem he struggled with, and Daniel watched in awe as his son's face lit up with understanding. It had been a long time since he had seen that spark in Liam's eyes. Daniel felt something heal, something quiet but profound. He wondered how a girl who had lost so much could give so much hope without even trying. As the storm softened into a drizzle, Evelyn prepared to leave. She picked up her crutches, her movements slow but steady. But as she stood, her bag slipped, scattering her worn notebooks across the wet floor. Daniel and Liam jumped up instantly to help her. Daniel picked up one notebook and noticed a page filled with beautifully written words, a story she was working on, about a girl who survived storms by learning to create her own light. He felt tears sting his eyes, but he blinked them away before she could see. Evelyn thanked them politely, her voice gentle but trembling from embarrassment. Daniel, moved beyond anything he had expected, took a deep breath and asked if she came there often. She nodded, saying she liked the corner seat because it made her feel safe. Daniel hesitated, then admitted that if she ever needed help with anything, schoolwork, transportation, even just company, they would be around. Evelyn looked at him with stunned eyes, as if someone had opened a door she forgot she was allowed to walk through. She whispered a thank you so soft it barely rose above the sound of the rain. Days passed, but their lives didn't drift apart. Daniel found himself watching for Evelyn on his way home from work, making sure she reached safely from school to her grandmother's market stall. Liam began waiting for her after class to study together. Slowly, their three broken pieces began forming something whole. Evelyn's presence brought stability, laughter, and a silent reminder that strength wasn't measured by perfection, but by persistence. One day, her grandmother fell seriously ill, and life threatened to crumble again. Daniel didn't hesitate. He took time off work, helped with hospital visits, prepared meals, and stood by Evelyn's side like she was family, because by then, she was. She cried only once, late at night in the hospital corridor, thinking no one could hear. But Daniel did. And he understood the weight of silent battles better than anyone. He reassured her, not with promises, but with presence. Weeks later, when her grandmother recovered enough to return home, the air around them felt lighter. Evelyn grew more determined than ever. She began writing again, telling stories inspired by her struggles, her courage, and the people who refused to walk away from her. And then came the day Evelyn finally admitted something, the day she told Daniel and Liam that sharing that table was the first time in a very long time she had felt like she belonged somewhere. She said she had approached them because something about the way they sat together looked lonely, familiar. She thought maybe they, too, needed someone. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps these emotional stories reach more people who might need them.